Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. What's going on, everybody? So recently, a few people may have heard that the UAE and Israel have reached a peace deal. Now, there's a few things wrong with that, and to people who know about the whole Israeli-Palestinian situation, you already see right through this. For people who don't and actually see this as a good thing, let me just give you 3 reasons as to why it actually is not. Number 1, the United Arab Emirates has stated that this is a peace deal in order to prevent the further annexation and stop the annexation by Israel of the West Bank. Now, for somebody looking from the outside in, you might go, wow, that's a great idea, that's a great deal. But for someone who knows a little bit more about the situation, let me ask you this. Where was this love and sentiment for Palestine when Israel is constantly bombarding and bombing the living hell out of Gaza on an annual basis? Where was this love for Palestine and trying to come to agreements to prevent further, human right violations against the Palestinians? Where was this sentiment the entire time Israel was forcing Palestinians to live in an apartheid state? Where was this love and sentiment the entire time Israel was killing innocent Palestinian men, women, and children at checkpoints, just at random? Where was all this love and sentiment when Israel is killing journalists and medics and protesters and arresting youth, men and women, or elderly men and women, or children, and putting them in prison with no trial, just no accusation, nothing, just putting them in prison and no trial date? Where was this love and affection for Palestine when all of this was happening? Where is it when the whole coronavirus pandemic started? Where was it when Israel started demolishing COVID centers to treat Palestinians and destroying any place where they can give, whether it's COVID tests or where they would have any of those machines for life support? Where were any of those? It wasn't there. But suddenly now they want a peace deal to stop the annexation of the West Bank. To some people, they might say that's a great idea. To most people who know about the situation, you see right through it. It's literally just a political ruse. They're just pulling the curtains over our faces. They're taking advantage of a situation like the annexation and saying, oh, we can find a new business partner and claim we're doing it to help Palestine. Meanwhile, what they don't tell you is that right after they planned this peace deal, the report also stated that Israel and the UAE have decided to, first of all, create a direct flight from the UAE to Israel. Second of all, to start creating a tourism industry for both nations, for people to tour the UAE and for the UAE to tour Israel and Jerusalem. And the third thing is they're also building safety and telecommunications infrastructures. Wow, that sounds like a multi-billion-dollar industry being created right here. Do you really care about Palestinians? Or did you just see this as a great financial and economic opportunity? Number 2, Israel did not say that they will stop the annexation of the West Bank. Israel said they will suspend annexation of the West Bank, which means next month, next year, after the whole deal is done, infrastructure is built, whenever people aren't paying attention and there's another pandemic we're paying attention to and we're unaware of what's going on in our surroundings, back to annexing the West Bank. Now what? And number 3, what this does is this normalizes the image of doing business and dealing with Israel. And it normalizes this in a sense where people from the outside looking in go, well, how bad could Israeli treatment of Palestinians be if other Muslim Arab nations are doing business with them? How bad could it be? It's probably not that bad, right? So that's what it does. It formalizes and normalizes the Israeli treatment of Palestinians, and people just see it as, it can't be bad if other nations are doing business with them. And of course, everything that I'm saying at this point, it's not directed at the population of, let's say, the United Arab Emirates or the residents. There are thousands and thousands of Palestinians living in there, and multiple other nationalities, and including Emirati residents, citizens. It's not directed at these people. It's the governments. The governments are the ones that are doing this, and the people have very little say in the matter. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, if you see something wrong happening in front of you, something munkar, something that's, whether it's bad, it's oppressive, transgression, if you can, you change it with your hands, as in you take action, you do something about it. If you can't do that, then you do something, then you change it with your tongue, which means you talk about it, you make it public, you raise awareness about it, you write about it. Or the last thing you can do, if you can't do the first two, change it with your heart, hate it with your heart, dislike it, feel for the people who are being oppressed. And that is the lowest form of Iman. That is the lowest form that you can do. So for anyone who can do anything about it politically, anyone who has any influence, they can do that. If you can't, then at the very least, repost this, share it, let people know what's happening. And the worst case scenario, if you can't do any of those, at least know that it's wrong and don't fall under the whole normalization process that they're doing. And I'm not going to say anything about where are the Muslim nations, وين أمة العرب, وين المسلمين, because subhanAllah, the Muslimin, bro, every Muslim nation has got its issues right now, whether it's war, poverty, famine. Yani at this point, all I can say is Allah yakun fi aun al-jami'. May Allah have mercy on all the Muslims and Muslim nations, and may Allah grant us patience and inshallah help us overcome all these difficulties, and whoever does their best to overcome them, may Allah inshallah reward us all accordingly. And that's my piece on this. I hope this benefited some people, and thank you for listening. Don't fall for what they're doing to Palestinians. It's not okay, and this is all just a political scheme just to make more money and normalize the further oppression of Palestinians. That's all I got to say about the matter. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you.